everyone, and welcome to Mr.MoFranchise. It's what we've been waiting for. Round 1 of the N.F.L. draft. There is a buzz around here as many teams are looking to add pieces to their team so they can compete with the defending Super Bowl champion, the San Francisco 49ers. Here are the way that I do the draft rules in my Madden franchise. Leading up to the draft, myself, the general manager, the player personnel director, and the head scout got together to map out the draft strategy. Many hours of grueling work went into stacking the players on the value board. A roadmap to success was planned, and everyone felt good about the results. I roll a D100 to see how the draft has been prepared for day 1, the first round of the draft. 2 notes here. Number 1, if there's more than one pick in a round, then separate rolls are made for each pick. And number 2, if I'm required to make a trade with another team, as noted by the roll chart, and I'm given as many attempts at negotiations as my player personnel director is able to do. However, if I fail to make the trade work, I lose a D30 for my GM's approval rating. So the goal there is to not to try to nickel and dime the negotiations, but to make sure the trade goes through. Or else, if you fail the roll for negotiations, then you lose a D30 for the GM's approval rating. That would not be good. And then you continue to go until you make the trade happen. So you can lose a lot of GM approval rating if you can't make the trade go through. So it's important to do that. So let's take a look at the roll chart for the D100. Now, as you can see here, it depends on what kind of GM you have as to what the roll means. But let's just go through each category and discuss that. So it's a very small odds, but there is a chance that on the D100 that the first row there says trade up for the number 1 pick. So since I had the lifelong fan, if I were to roll the die and get a 1 or 2, then I've got to do whatever it takes to trade up to get the number 1 pick, using that description over there with the whole note number 2, having to make that, and if I fail, then eventually I lose the GM's approval rating. The next one, it says trade up for a top 3 pick. The next one says trade up for a top 5 pick, and the next one says trade up for a top 10 pick. So, there's an odds, less than, usually about, it's 12% if you have the former players, the GM, 8% for the lifelong fan, and only 3% or 4% for financial mogul that you would trade up in the draft for a top 1, 3, 5, or 10 pick. But let's go on to the later categories, because those take probably a little more explaining. So the next one says trade down later in the round. So what would happen is, if you got that roll, you would be forced to trade where you're at to further down in that round, but you could sort of nickel and dime which team you wanted to do that to and how you wanted to make that trade work. However, the next category says you trade down later in the round, but only the offer is given. In other words, Madden will sometimes, if you say, let me see what the trade offers are, they will give you a couple of teams and what they're offering. That category would require you to take one of those that they offer. The next category says trade out of this round, and this is very similar to the previous categories. So if I had a number 1 pick in this round, and it said trade out of this round, I would have to trade away the the first round pick to get hopefully multiple picks in later rounds. And I would get the pick on that first category, and then the next one says trade out of this round, only offers given. I would have to pick whatever the Madden suggestions were based on whatever would get me out of that current round. And then the next category says you would trade pick for players. Now you'll notice on this one that the former player doesn't really like that. There's only 1% chance they would do that. That's not really how they roll. No pun intended. A 2% chance for the lifelong fan, but notice for the financial mogul, they're all about that. There's an 11 or 12% chance that if you have the GM that's the financial mogul, they are willing to take the picks in the draft and trade those away for current players because they are more enamored by those players than by the picks themselves. Then the next categories, trade players for another pick in this round. You'll notice almost in flip way, the former player is more likely to want to do this when they take current players and try to move those for picks in that current round. And then there are the trade pick for next year's pick. So in this case, I would get to make that call. So I would trade a pick from this year to go to next year, and I would get to decide that. But then the following category says trade pick for next year's pick, but only offers given, where once again, Madden gives you the offers and you would get to pick from the ones they give you. And then stay pat, the GM selects the pick for this round. This one is kind of a crazy one. What this means is you don't even get to pick for the round. you basically auto go to the next pick, and then Madden picks your pick for you. That's one where you're holding your breath and hoping that Madden uses some good logic. That one can be a scary one, especially because the range of that is so long for the lifelong fan. Very scary, and even for the financial mogul, even scarier still. And then the next one is stay pat. You select the pick is head scout influenced. What that means is if you roll that one, you get to pick the player, but then after the draft is over, you will see in a later video that how your head scout is, how good they are, can make your player be better than what you originally thought or worse than what you originally thought. So even their abilities can be affected by your head scout at that point. So that's a fun one. And then you'll notice that a majority of this chart, it's 50% for the former player and financial mogul, and about 54% for the lifelong fan. It's a stay pat and you select the pick. So there's nothing involved. It's just you're just picking the players, and there's nothing special to it. So that's another spicy thing that I put into the franchise to try to make it where you can't manipulate the draft all the time, because it is very easy in Madden to take 2 6-round picks and move it up to a 4, and then take 2 4s and move it up to a 2, and you can easily manipulate Madden if you allow yourself that freedom. So this is a way to sort of like keep yourself from abusing the system, but also to make it spicy, because you may have the picks taken from you by the GM who wants to pick himself, or he wants to trade out, and so it keeps it fresh so that you never know how the draft is going to go. All right, with that said, I went ahead and I rolled for the first round, and for my first pick, which I'm picking 4th, I rolled a 98, so basically we're staying pat and I get to select that pick. And then for the second pick, I rolled a 67, so fortunately for me, my first 2 picks of this franchise, pick 4 and pick 16, I get to pick those myself. Let's move on to a slide that I've shown you in the past, and that is my wish list. This was sort of the way that I laid out. I kind of looked at my team and thought about what were my needs going to be, and this helped me as I was scouting for players. My initial thoughts were with my first pick, and I thought it was going to be quite early. I thought I'd be picking 1st or 2nd or 3rd. I never thought I'd be picking 4th, although that's very close, but still, you'll find out in a moment, that makes a big difference. I was really hoping to pick Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields to be my quarterback going forward. And then with my second pick, I was hoping that the trade that I had made would be a top 10 pick, and I was sort of hoping for a lineman, and I was leaning towards Penei Sewell or Alex Leatherwood to be that anchor piece, that tackle that would give my future quarterback, hopefully Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, a way to be protected, because last year it wasn't even close. Gardner Minshew took more sacks in the NFL than anybody else. And then I was sort of thinking that with my second round pick, the first pick I had in the second round, I would go with some sort of linebacker, and I was leaning towards Dylan Moses or Merlin Robertson, whichever way I went with that. And then after that, I figured it would be pretty hard to sort of lock in a name as teams start to take the people that you want. But my goal was to get another lineman in the second round. In the third round, to get with my 2 picks, a running back and a cornerback. You'll notice I've highlighted cornerback because I got that through free agency. So I would be looking to get a running back in the third round, and then, at this point, maybe best player available. And then with my 4th round picks, I was looking to get a wide receiver or free safety. Once again, I highlighted free safety because we got one of those in the free agency. So I'd be definitely looking for a wide receiver and best available. In my 5th round, with my 3 picks, I'm definitely looking for an outside linebacker, a lineman, and a tight end for those 3 picks. In the 6th round, I'm looking with my 3 picks to get a fullback, a middle linebacker, and a halfback. And in the 7th round, I was looking to get a center and a cornerback or best available. And since I've already gotten another cornerback in the free agency, probably just best available at that point. So that's kind of my draft strategy as I go into the first draft that I will be experiencing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Hello everyone, and welcome to round 1 of the N.F.L. draft. It's an exciting evening as we look to see where these young, talented college players will be going. And we're going to be starting with the Minnesota Vikings, who had a horrible 3-13 year. They're looking to bounce back. What does Mel Kiper have for his prediction for this pick? Mel Kiper believes it's going to be Penei Sewell from Oregon, the left tackle. Well, let's see if the pick is in. Let's find out who the Vikings go with. pick is in. And the Vikings go with Penei Sewell. Nice job, Mel Kiper. And they are going to solidify their offensive line with that pick. Next up on the clock is the Tennessee Titans. They also had a horrible record at 3-11 and 2 ties. And the Titans, who does Mel Kiper believe they're going with? Well, the needs for the Titans are at quarterback. So Mel Kiper believes that they will go with Trevor Lawrence. You know, the Vikings didn't need a quarterback, but Mel Kiper believes that this will be Trevor Lawrence, quarterback from Clemson. That is the rumor going around that the Titans need a franchise quarterback. How do you pass up the talent of Trevor Lawrence? Well, or it could be Justin Fields, but the pick is in. Let's find out who the Titans have gone with. With the second pick in the 2020 draft, the Titans have selected. They've gone with Trevor Lawrence. Good job again, Mel Kiper. They now have their franchise quarterback. Next up is the Washington Redskins, who went 5-11, and there's speculation that they want a quarterback as well. With Lawrence off the board, Mel Kiper believes this may be Justin Fields from Ohio State. That is what Mel Kiper believes. And it looks like the pick is in. Who will the Washington Redskins be going with? They have gone with Justin Fields. Congratulations to the Washington football team Redskins. They have gone with Justin Fields, quarterback from Ohio State. And that means the top 2 quarterbacks are off the board, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock. And the Jaguars made no bones about it. They need a franchise quarterback. Mel Kiper, what do you think? When you look at what's left, what are the options for the Jaguars? Well, without a doubt, there's only one selection here for the Jaguars to make if they want to go with a franchise quarterback. Unfortunately for them, the 2 that they had targeted had already been taken just ahead of them. But if you look at the big board, let's take a look at what Trey Lance has to offer. He clearly would be the guy they want to go with. The quarterback from North Dakota State. He is 6'3". In the combine, he was the 7th fastest quarterback. He did really well in the 3-cone and the 20-yard shuttle. He scored really high marks with his throw power. His accuracy with short balls is fantastic. He also has a tremendous accuracy for the deep ball as well. He did have late first-round projected talent, but if you look at the other quarterbacks that are left, there aren't that many more talented than Trey Lance, and there are a lot of teams that are looking for a franchise quarterback right now. I mean, we project the Giants want to get one. The Colts, with the retirement with Phil Rivers. The Broncos have talked about wanting a quarterback. The Saints just lost Drew Brees to retirement. There are a lot of teams that want a franchise quarterback, and the fear is if the Jaguars do not pick Trey Lance right here, which may be a little bit of a stretch, was a late round talent. However, if the Jaguars do not pick Trey Lance at this spot, there's a real fear in the Jaguars organization that he won't be there the next time they come around with their 16th pick. And so I believe that the Jaguars need to go with Trey Lance with this pick. They need a franchise quarterback. We saw with all the games last year, Gardner Minshew just is not a franchise quarterback. He threw way more interceptions than touchdowns. He led the league in interceptions. You know, the Jaguars defense has what it takes to be competitive, but the offense has to be able to score some points. The Jaguars were dead last in touchdown passes. They were dead last in total yards, dead last in points scored. If you want to turn that around, this pick has to be Trey Lance. All right, I believe that the pick is in now. With the 4th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Jaguars do select Trey Lance, the 6'3", 224 quarterback from North Dakota State. The 20-year-old is going to be, we project a 75 overall, and we believe he has hidden development talent. He will fit this system well for Jacksonville. They like the strong arm system, and that's clearly what Gardner Minshew did not have. And so, while some scouts are going to say they reached with Trey Lance, look at his numbers that we project. We believe he's going to have somewhere around the range of 92 power He's going to have 80s in all the accuracies, 84 deep, 82 medium, 87 short accuracy. He has decent awareness for rookie quarterback. He's got 82 speed, which is something you have to value in a quarterback, the scrambling ability. He's got a 94 injury rating. We truly believe this is the pick that the Jaguars had to make if they wanted to improve on their 5-11 record. The pick for the Jaguars is Trey Lance. All right, so the next team up, the 5th pick is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. Looking back at the season, the Seahawks finished a disappointing 6-10. A surprise drop in their record, especially when you have Russell Wilson to be your quarterback. So, Mel Kiper, what do you think the Seahawks need to turn things around? Well, looking at the Seahawks and their overall personnel, I believe they need an edge rusher. They need someone at the end, either left end or right end or outside linebacker, specifically left outside linebacker. To me, there are only a couple of options here that I believe will truly make a difference for the Seahawks. And I look no further than the outside linebacker from Penn State, the 20-year-old Micah Parsons. I think he would be the pick that the Seahawks would want to have at this point. So let's take a look at Micah Parsons, the 6'3", 250-pound outside linebacker. He shows great finesse moves, a tremendous pursuit, and a great ability to tackle. He had a 7-point combine, a fantastic combine. Let's find out. The pick is in. Whoa! The Seahawks do not go with Parsons. They choose to go with the cornerback from Alabama, Patrick Surtain II. Wow. This was a surprise. No one had this on the board for the Seahawks. Cornerback was not their immediate need. That being said, Patrick Surtain II was high on a lot of boards, and maybe the Seahawks felt like they couldn't pass up that kind of talent when they're at this point in the draft. He is a very talented cornerback that many believe will be playing right away. We just didn't see the Seahawks picking him at this spot. What an impressive and surprise move for the Seahawks. Wow. Well, that puts the Bengals on the clock with the 6th pick. Mel, what do the Bengals need? What are their needs that they have right now? Well, when you look at the Cincinnati Bengals and you look at their record last year, they finished 6-9-1, dead last in the AFC North. If they want to compete in the AFC North with the likes of the Browns, the Steelers, the Ravens, I believe they need to get offensive line help, and I believe they need to get a rush. So when I look at what's available in the draft, it would be very tempting for them to go for Alex Leatherwood. You might see a sleeper pick here with Jamar Chase if they want to give another target for their quarterback. But Alex Leatherwood would make a lot of sense. But don't count out the pick of Micah Parsons. I mean, Micah Parsons has a lot of talent, and a lot of people thought the Seahawks were going to pick Micah Parsons. So it wouldn't be surprising if the Bengals go with Micah Parsons instead of going with Alex Leatherwood. They need line help, and they need that outside rush from their outside linebacker position. So it wouldn't surprise me here if they go with either Micah Parsons or Alex Leatherwood. Okay, let's go in. I believe the pick is in. Let's find out who the Bengals have gone with. All right, the pick is in, and with this pick, the 6th pick in the NFL draft, the Bengals have gone with Micah Parsons, outside linebacker from Penn State. That is a good pick for the Cincinnati Bengals, looking to compete in that division with great quarterbacks. Next up are going to be the Miami Dolphins, who also finished with a 6-9-1 record. They finished dead last in the AFC East. And Mel, what do the Dolphins need to succeed? Well, as I look at the Dolphins, they definitely need line help. They need help at left tackle, right tackle, and center. However, they also need help at the quarterback and wide receiver positions. So they need a lot of help on the offense. So I'm definitely thinking that the Dolphins will be going with offensive help here. I believe that for them, the pick has got to be Jamar Chase. This is a weapon that you cannot pass up. Now, it would be interesting to see them pick somebody else, but Jamar Chase has got to be the pick here. He has the raw talent, the deep threat possibility. He's got fantastic, spectacular catch, amazing catching ability. He runs the deep route extremely well. And how do you overlook that 7.5 combine score that he accumulated at the combine? He's also the person top of the board right now. I believe the Dolphins need to go with Jamar Chase. You got to give Tua Tagovailoa another weapon to throw to here in Miami. I believe the Dolphins need to go with Jamar Chase. So the pick is in. With the 7th pick in the 2020 draft, the Miami Dolphins have selected a shocker. Pat Freiermuth. No one saw this coming. The tight end from Penn State, the 22-year-old. He did have tremendous ability at Penn State. But wow, is this what the Miami Dolphins needed? I guess they wanted to give a security blanket for Tua to throw to. But this is a shocker. The Dolphins go with the tight end Freiermuth. Next up on the board, we have the Los Angeles Chargers. Mel, who do the Chargers need to go with in this round? Well, the Chargers need offensive line help without question. When I look at their needs, they need a left tackle, they need a right guard. However, they also need defensive line help. And there's a pick out there by the name of Jay Tufele from USC, power rusher, had a 6'6" combine score. He's 6'3", 305. I believe that he is the pick that you want to go with. It's either going to be Jay Tufele or Alex Leatherwood since they need line help. But if I had to go with a pick right now, I believe that the Chargers would be well served to go with Jay Tufele, USC power rusher. That would bolster that Chargers defense. So that's my guess if I had to go with one. All right. We believe that the pick is coming in, and it's coming in shortly. They are approaching the podium. Let's find out who the Chargers are going with the 8th pick. With the 8th pick, the Los Angeles Chargers have gone with... Oh, there's some tension here. And it looks like it's going to be... It was Jay Tufele. Mel Kiper had that right on the nose. They're going to go with the young man from USC to bolster that defensive line help. And that means that the New York Giants are on the clock. The Giants, if you remember last year, they finished with a horrible 6-9-1 record. Definitely outclassed in the NFC East, where the Cowboys were the class of that division. Mel, what do the Giants need to close the gap between themselves and the Cowboys? Well, the Giants need a quarterback. Unfortunately for the Giants, the 3 top quarterbacks have already been taken by the Titans, Redskins, and Jaguars. So they also might want to look at middle linebacker help, outside linebacker help, and offensive line help. And if you look at the board right now, the big board, what you see is no one fits that better in the top 5 or 6 than Alex Leatherwood. So I believe that the pick here for the Giants should be Alex Leatherwood. As you look around the board, you don't see a lot of help here except for Alex Leatherwood. He would be the pick that would give the Giants a chance to bolster that line. And while it would be tempting to pick Caden Stearns, I believe, and even Jamar Chase would be a good pick. That would be a surprise pick. I believe the pick should be Alex Leatherwood. All right, it looks like the pick is now in. With the 9th pick in the 2020 draft, the Giants have selected Alex Leatherwood, right tackle from Alabama. Mel got it again. Good job, Mel. Yeah, it was a pretty obvious pick, I think, for the Giants. It was tempting to... Jamar Chase was very tempting, but they definitely need offensive line help, and that is a good call. All right, next up on the board are the Las Vegas, Oakland, Los Angeles, name who you want, but we know them as the Raiders. Mel, what is your thoughts on the Raiders here? Last year they had a 7-9 record. They weren't too far away from 500. What do the Raiders need to bolster their team? Well, as you look at the Raiders' needs, they need help on defense. They need outside linebacker help. They need free safety help. And they also need offensive line help, both at the left tackle and left guard positions. They need to be able to protect the blind side of their quarterback, but they also need outside linebacker help. So when I look at the board, I see a lot of potential talent there. But how do you pass up Caden Stearns at this point? He's the second person on the board. They need free safety help. That's their third need. I've got to go with Caden Stearns here with the pick. All right, so it looks like the pick is in for the Raiders. With the 10th pick in the 2020 draft, the Oakland Raiders select Gregory Rousseau, N from Miami. Wow. That is a surprise pick as well. Although the Raiders did need outside linebacker help, maybe they'll use Rousseau as an edge rusher in that regard. But the Raiders have selected Gregory Rousseau, N from Miami. And that brings up the Indianapolis Colts. Mel, what do you think here? Well, when I look at the needs of the Indianapolis Colts, I see a huge need at quarterback. With the retirement of Phillip Rivers, they seriously need a quarterback. However, at where they're selecting, I'm not sure that their quarterback this is where you can get the kind of quarterback that you need at this spot. So I would have to say Jamar Chase. Yeah, you don't have that quarterback to go to right now, but Jamar Chase is such a talent. How do you pass up that combine? How do you pass up that raw talent? And while I do believe that the Colts need a quarterback and linebacker help, I think they have to go with Jamar Chase here. All right, it looks like the pick is in for the Indianapolis Colts. Let's see if Jamar Chase is indeed the pick. With the 11th pick in the 2020 draft, the Indianapolis Colts have gone with Rondell Moore, wide receiver from Purdue. So indeed, the Colts go with a wide receiver, but it's not the one we suspected. They go with the 20-year-old wide receiver deep threat from Purdue, Rondell Moore. This is definitely something we did not see coming. Rondell Moore does have a ton of talent. But wow, with Jamar Chase still on the board, the Colts must have seen something that we did not. Next up for the New England Patriots, who found themselves in a weird position not making the playoffs last year at 7-9. Mel, who do you see them taking? I see them taking Dylan Moses, middle linebacker from Alabama. All right, it looks like the pick is in for the Patriots, and they have selected Jamar Chase. The talent was just too much to pass up for the Patriots, and they get the number one receiver still on the board, Jamar Chase. How do the Patriots do it? Well, it's an incredible pick. All right, moving on to the Cardinals of Arizona. They need, as we look at the board, they need end help. We think the pick here would probably be Xavier Thomas, right in from Clemson. That seems to be a need of theirs. They definitely need end help. They definitely need defensive tackle help, and they definitely need... Yeah, we have to go with Xavier Thomas from Clemson for this pick. All right, well, we believe the pick is coming in shortly for the Arizona Cardinals. Mel Kiper believes it's going to be Xavier Thomas, right in from Clemson. Let's find out at this time. With the 13th pick, the Arizona Cardinals select Jackson Carman, right tackle from Clemson. Well, yeah, that was a need the Cardinals had, and so they must have felt like Jackson Carman was a person they had to grab at this particular spot. He's projected to be a 77 right tackle, so that is a talent that you just do not see all the time at this part of the draft. So that is a good pick by the Arizona Cardinals. It looks like Xavier Thomas will far further down the board. Next up, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. They finished second in the NFC East with a 7-8-1 record. Mel, what do you think the Philadelphia Eagles need at this time? Well, I look at their needs. They need wide receiver. They need linebacker help in a big way. They could go a lot of directions here. But I think perhaps they would maybe want to go with Jalen Waddle. Deep threat, Alabama receiver. 5'10", 188, had a 7'3" combine. I think it's got to be Jalen Waddle. All right, the pick is in for the Philadelphia Eagles. With the 14th pick in the NFL draft, the Eagles select Wyatt Davis, left guard from Ohio State. Well, that will definitely solidify the Eagles line. They definitely needed a little bit of line help, so maybe a little bit of a surprise pick there, but how do you go wrong with Wyatt Davis? A strong player, Ohio State's left guard, 20 years old, definitely a power lineman. That's a good choice for the Philadelphia Eagles. Next up on the board, we have the second of two picks for the Raiders.
If you remember last time, they went with Rousseau, the N. So, Mel Kiper, what do you think now? Well, they surprised us last time, but the Raiders still need outside linebacker help. They still need offensive line help, and they need a free safety. So it'll be interesting to see which direction they go. But I happen to think that the Raiders here should probably go with Stearns, the free safety. He's high up on the board. He's one of the top 2 players still on the board. And this is a need that the Raiders need. I think it would be hard for the Raiders to pass up on the talent of Stearns. Don't get me wrong, the Raiders need a lot of help on defense. They could certainly use an outside linebacker. But when you look at what's on the big board, is there an outside linebacker that can make you overlook the talent, the true talent that Stearns has? Yes, they definitely need outside linebacker help. And yes, they could use some linemen. And yes, they surprised us by going with an N last time. But let's take a look at the big board and just see, if you're the Raiders, where's the true value here? So as we look at the big board, he's number 1 on the board. He's 6'1", 205, tremendous hit power, tremendous pursuit, very good in zone coverage, a 7.4 combine score. I mean, these are measurables that it's hard to pass up. Now, Xavier Thomas would be an interesting choice, but they've already picked an end. And after that, maybe Trey Smith, the left guard from Tennessee. When you look at the big board, I suppose you never can count out Jalen Waddle, wide receiver. We know how the Raiders love to pick wide receivers. But I think this has got to be the pick. All right, let's find out. The pick is in for the Oakland Raiders. With the 15th pick in the NFL draft, the Oakland Raiders have selected Samuel Cosmi, left tackle from Texas. Well, for once, the Oakland Raiders have made a surprising pick and not going with receiver. They went with offensive line help. That was their 4th need. A little surprised they didn't go with the free safety with this pick, since number 1 on the true talent. But clearly the Oakland Raiders are saying that they needed offensive line help, and you cannot go wrong with Samuel Cosmi. All right, next up are the Jacksonville Jaguars with their 2nd pick. So we have 2 teams going back-to-back with their 2nd picks in the 1st round. Both teams looking to rebuild through this draft. Well, let's take a look at the big board and try to predict what we think that the Jaguars will go with one of their many picks this year. Well, obviously, if you look at the big board, Caden Stearns stands out, but really the Jaguars have solidified their secondary in the free agency round. So one has to think about Jalen Waddle, wide receiver. They definitely could use another wide receiver threat. But let's look at Trey Smith. Trey Smith, the 6'6", 335-pound, 22-year-old from Tennessee, who was the strongest guard at the Combine. He repped 40 bench presses at the Combine. You mix that with running the 20-yard shuttle in the 2nd fastest time. And that's an incredible display of athletic talent and sheer power and strength. He's a great pass blocker. He's great at run blocking power. He's just got all the tools that the Jaguars need to try to prevent that leading sacks given up. Their line was extremely porous last year, and while it would be tempting to go with Jalen Waddle to give Trey Lance another target to throw to, because let's face it, Jalen Waddle is a real talent from Alabama. While he may not be the fastest wide receiver in the league, in fact, he ran the Combine at a 4.47, which put him at 29. He is so good at the other things that wide receivers need to be able to do. His catching is fantastic. His deep route running, his medium route running, these are all great things that Jalen Waddle can do, and it would be nice to have Trey Lance have that target. But you can't throw the ball to Jalen Waddle if you can't get the ball away because you're getting sacked. Sure, Rashad Bateman would be another target that it's hard to pass up his great talent, his spectacular catching ability, deep route running, his catching is a fantastic combine sport. He can also be a great potent fit for this Jaguars team. But once again, you cannot throw the ball to receivers if you cannot get rid of the ball before you're being sacked by the opposing team. So Trey Smith here, I predict will be the pick. Trey Smith will give the Jaguars another lineman to go with, and I believe the pick should be and will be Trey Smith. All right, we believe the pick is in. With the 16th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Jaguars have selected Trey Smith. Good job, Mel Kiper. This is a great pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars to improve their defense. We project he's already a 75 overall with hidden talent. This is a great pick for the Jaguars, who led the league last year in sacks given up. Yes, of course, you want offensive weapons. You want people in skill positions. They definitely could still use a running back. They could still use other positions, especially a tight end, and they could use a halfback, as we've mentioned, but their line was just incredibly porous last year. Great job by the Jacksonville Jaguars to pick up Trey Smith, the 6'6", 335-pound guard from Tennessee, with all the talent and power that you need to be an NFL lineman. Well, Mel, the Falcons are next. Who do you think they're going with? Well, I think they're going to go with Josh Myers, the center. Well, the pick is already in. Let's find out. And the Falcons have gone with Marvin Wilson, defensive tackle. Interesting pick there for the Atlanta Falcons. Instead of going with the center help, they chose to go with defensive tackle help. We didn't see that coming, but that is the choice. Next up on the clock are the Denver Broncos. Mel, what do you see happening here? Well, I am surprised at the pass up of Josh Myers by the Atlanta Falcons, and the Denver Broncos need quarterback help and they need center help. But with the quarterback not really in this slot, either they're going to trade down, or I really think that they will go with Josh Myers, the center. I think that is a tremendous need that they have. So my call is Josh Myers, center from Ohio State. All right, the pick is in, and the Denver Broncos have selected Josh Myers, center from Ohio State. Nice call, Mel Kiper. Yeah, I believe that's going to give them the best position to improve on that record that they had last year. You know, that record of 8-8. It doesn't take many pieces to improve that record. All right, next up on the clock are the Carolina Panthers. Remember last year, the Panthers also tied with the Falcons with that 8-8 record. So as many of these teams coming out, just a piece or two could get them into the playoffs next year. Mel, what do you see as the Panthers need? Well, I look at their needs, and I see they need some end help. They need some outside linebacker help. Wouldn't hurt them to get a quarterback, and a right tackle would also be an area of need. So really, it's hard to lock in what I think the Panthers will go with. Maybe Xavier Thomas could be the pick here. That may give them the best chance to win, but really, I'm struggling having a pick here for the Panthers, but I'm going to go with Xavier Thomas right in from Clemson. All right, we believe that the pick is in for the Panthers. With the 19th pick in the draft, the Carolina Panthers select Dylan Moses, middle linebacker for Alabama. He did fall. That is a good pick for the Panthers. And while they may not have needed that position more than they need other things, Dylan Moses was just a talent hard to pass up. All right, Mel. Who are we going to go with next here with the Ravens? Well, I believe that the Ravens, maybe needing a wide receiver, you have to go with Waddle here at this point. All right, well, we haven't had a lot of time between this pick because the Ravens must be excited about this pick because it's already in. With the next pick, the 20th pick in the draft, the Baltimore Ravens have selected Xavier Thomas, right end. He's been a name that's been thrown about in this draft. It's amazing that he fell that far, and I'm sure the Ravens were a bit surprised. And while he might not have been their number one need, when you have a talent like Xavier Thomas from Clemson on the board and he falls to you, sometimes it doesn't have to be your number one need. That's just a hard talent to pass up, and I think the Ravens feel very happy with that pick. All right, next up on the clock are the Houston Texans. Last year, the Houston Texans won their division with a 9-6-1 record. That gave them the 4th seed, but they were knocked out in the playoffs in the first round. It sounds like their pick is in, and the Houston Texans have gone with Shaun Wade, cornerback from Ohio State. Yes, many people thought Shaun Wade wouldn't fall this far, so Houston has to feel extremely happy with that pick. And while it wasn't in their top 5 needs, with a talent like Shaun Wade, you just can't overlook that when it falls to this far in the draft. All right, next up are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Last year, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made the playoffs. They did get knocked out in the first round by the 49ers, who went on to win the Super Bowl. Their pick is in. And what do we have for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? The Buccaneers have selected with the 22nd pick, Najee Harris, running back from Alabama. Yes, a true talent there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Some would argue they got a steal pick there. Najee Harris is going to solidify the running game for the Buccaneers as he goes to Tampa Bay. Next up on the clock, we have the Dallas Cowboys picking at number 23. And the Cowboys pick is in. And they're going to go with Merlin Robertson. What a fantastic pick here for the Dallas Cowboys. Many projections had Merlin Robertson finishing at least being picked in the top 15. And so with the Cowboys, for him to fall to 23rd, and outside linebacker was their outside linebacker position was their two biggest needs. Mel Kiper believed that would be their great pick. And the Dallas Cowboys have to feel tremendously happy with Merlin Robertson from Arizona State falling to them. Next up, we have the New York Jets. New York Jets surprised everybody last year with winning the division in the AFC East with a 10-6 record. Yes, they were knocked out in the first round, but still, they surprised everyone. Let's see what the Jets go with this time around on their pick, because we believe that their pick is in, and the Jets have selected with their pick. They've gone with Jonathan Cooper, right end. Nice pick there for the Jets. And was something that was in their top 3 and 4th needs. So getting Jonathan Cooper here is a great pick. And already the Steelers have made it to the podium. The Steelers pick is in. And the Steelers are going with Tyson Campbell, cornerback from Georgia. Yes, cornerback was a need that we saw that the Steelers needed. That was their 3rd most need. And that's a great pick there for the Steelers. And before we've even had a chance to catch our breath, the Detroit Lions are on the clock, and they've already selected, and they're picking, with their pick, Damon Clark, middle linebacker, and that was the number 1 need for the Lions, so that pick fits them nicely. And the pick is already in for the Saints. We believe that the Saints will go with quarterback here, and there's a quarterback I believe on the board that will fit them nicely. They may be going with Newman, and they are indeed going Jamie Newman, quarterback from Georgia. As many of the early quarterbacks were off the board, this might be a reach for some people, but the Saints, with the retirement of Drew Brees, needed a franchise quarterback, and they're going to go with Jamie Newman, quarterback from Georgia. Some will say this is a reach, but the Saints needed a quarterback. They weren't able to address it in free agency, so the Saints had their new quarterback to replace Drew Brees, Jamie Newman, quarterback from Georgia. And now the Chiefs are going to be on the clock. Mel believes that the Chiefs' biggest needs are quarterback, middle linebacker, and center. So it will be interesting with Newman off the board if the Chiefs will look at a different direction, feeling that there aren't quarterbacks they should be picking this high up. And it looks like the Chiefs have their pick in, and let's go to the podium to hear who they're picking. With the 28th pick in the NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs have selected Tyler Linderbaum, center from Iowa. Yes, the Chiefs are able to fill one of their top 3 needs. They get their center from Iowa to be able to give that ball to whatever quarterback they're going to have. Remember, they've lost Patrick Mahomes, so getting Linderbaum here is a way to start the Chiefs going at that position, and that is a need they definitely had. Next up on the clock are the Packers. The Packers pick is in, and they are going with Rashad Bateman, wide receiver from Minnesota. What a great pick here for the Packers. They had to be surprised that he fell this far down the board. Many people had him as one of the 3 best wide receivers on the board, and for him to fall all the way down to 29th, that's going to help solidify a Packers team that already was tremendous. Remember, Packers made it to the NFC title game last year, so here's another weapon for Aaron Rodgers to throw to, and the Green Bay Packers, to the chagrin of everybody in the NFC North, have just gotten better with Rashad Bateman. And next up are the Cleveland Browns with the 30th pick. Remember, the Cleveland Browns were hosting the AFC title game last year, and we believe that the Cleveland Browns will want to address someone on the defensive side. And the Cleveland Browns pick is in, and the Cleveland Browns are going to be going with Caden Stearns. What a great pickup for the Cleveland Browns. Unbelievable. We've been talking about Caden Stearns for the last 15 picks. A true talent like Caden Stearns, free safety from Texas, for him to fall to this late in the draft. Cleveland is just beaming today as they get their free safety of the future. Caden Stearns is off the board, and now we are to the 31st pick for the Buffalo Bills. Remember, they made it all the way to the Super Bowl last year, losing to the 49ers. And it looks like the pick is in for the Bills, and they're going to go with wide receiver Justin Ross from Clemson. That is a solid pick for the Bills, giving them, that wasn't in their top 5 needs, but once again, this had to be a best player available part for the Bills. Justin Ross, talented receiver from Clemson, going to the Bills. And now we are to the last pick in the first round. The Super Bowl champion San Francisco 49ers are on the clock. And we truly believe that they will be going with some sort of person on the offensive line, as offensive line is definitely a need that they have. And the 49ers pick is in. And the last pick of the first round is going to be Andre Cisco, free safety.